My husband's mistress bought the house next door, claimed she was pregnant with his baby, and that was only the beginning of the most terrifying truth I uncovered about everything. My name is Claire, and 6 months ago, I found out my husband was having an affair, not in some dramatic movie scene. No screaming, no lipstick on collars. It was quieter than that, and somehow worse. Late-night texts he forgot to explain, unexplained absences that came with overly detailed excuses, and finally, a jewelry receipt for a necklace I never received. That's how these things usually start, ordinary, almost boring, until they aren't. When I confronted Marcus, he didn't deny it. If you're interested in this topic, type "interested" in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. It only takes a second, but it helps the channel a lot. He sat on our cream-colored couch, the one we picked out together at an overpriced furniture store in Denver, and said 2 words he thought were enough. "I'm sorry." Not, "I'll fix this." Not, "I made a mistake." Just, "Sorry." He swore it was over, swore he had ended things weeks earlier, swore he wanted to save our marriage. And here's the uncomfortable truth. I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to, because the alternative, divorce, lawyers, selling the house, dismantling 8 years of life, felt too big to face. So we tried to fix it. Therapy every Tuesday at 4 p.m., forced date nights, careful conversations that avoided anything real. I pretended I wasn't checking his phone every time he went to the bathroom. He pretended he didn't notice. That's what denial looks like when it wears adult clothes. Then, last week, everything changed. A moving truck pulled into the driveway next door. Our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, had finally moved into assisted living. Her house had been on the market for 2 months. I'd watched couples tour it on weekends, imagining who might move in. I never imagined it would be her. I was standing in the kitchen when I saw a woman directing the movers. Blonde hair, yoga pants, confident posture, like she belonged there. It took my brain a few seconds to catch up. I had seen her before, once. In a hotel parking lot, 6 months earlier, after I found the receipt, after I drove there like a crazy person, thinking I'd catch them together. I didn't. I only saw her leaving. Designer sunglasses, white Mercedes, a woman who looked very comfortable with secrets. Now she was unloading furniture next door. My hands started shaking so badly I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered on the tile. Brown liquid spread across the floor. Marcus ran in from his home office. What happened? I couldn't speak. I just pointed out the window. The color drained from his face. "Claire, I swear to God, I didn't know." That's when I told him to get out. Not yelling, not crying. Quiet. He immediately stepped outside, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and angry, calling her. I stood there in coffee-soaked socks, staring at the woman who helped destroy my marriage, moving into the house next door. The next few days were a blur. Marcus claimed ignorance, said she must have done it deliberately. I didn't know what to believe anymore. When someone lies to your face long enough, truth becomes slippery. I avoided the windows, avoided going outside, but you can't live like a prisoner in your own house forever. On day 4, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. She was standing there, holding a plate of cookies, smiling. "Hi," she said brightly when I opened the door. "I'm Amber. I just moved in next door and wanted to introduce myself." The audacity was breathtaking. "I know who you are," I said. Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Oh, Marcus told you." "No," I replied. "He didn't have to." She tried to recover, tried to sound reasonable. "I know this is weird, but maybe we could talk like adults, clear the air." That's when I realized something important. This woman wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't ashamed. She was confident. And people like that don't make accidental choices. I slammed the door in her face. Over the next week, she didn't stop.
waving at the mailbox, smiling at the driveway, leaving notes suggesting coffee. Marcus and I barely spoke. He moved into the guest room. I called a lawyer. Colorado is a no-fault state. The affair didn't matter legally. Assets would be split evenly. The house would likely be sold. The house I had painted, planted, lived in for 8 years, all because he couldn't stay faithful. Then came the moment that changed everything. Saturday morning, I was pruning roses in the front yard, trying to stay busy. Amber walked straight toward me. "Claire, please, 5 minutes. I have nothing to say to you, but I have something to say to you." She took a breath. "I'm pregnant." The shears slipped from my hand. It's Marcus's. 8 weeks. That's when the math hit me. 2 months after he said it was over. 2 months into therapy. And in that moment, something inside me went cold, because this wasn't chaos anymore. It was strategy, and I was standing in the middle of something I didn't yet understand. I hired a private investigator 3 days later. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted certainty. When someone embeds themselves into your life this precisely, guessing becomes dangerous. His name was Daniel, former law enforcement. Calm voice, no theatrics. These situations are usually simpler than they feel, but sometimes they're worse. I gave him everything. Amber's full name, the trust documents, her phone number, her license plate, a timeline of when Marcus said the affair started and when he claimed it ended. Daniel didn't promise answers. He promised effort. While he worked, I stayed quiet. I stopped reacting to Amber's smiles, stopped acknowledging her waves, let Marcus dig his own emotional grave by over-explaining and contradicting himself. Silence makes people sloppy. 5 days later, Daniel called. "I think you should sit down," he said. That's never a good sentence. Amber's name wasn't her real name.
It was a shortened version of her middle name, legally changed 2 years ago. Before that, she'd lived in 3 different states in 6 years. Arizona, Nevada, Texas. Always near affluent neighborhoods, always near married men with assets. She never stayed longer than 18 months. "Any criminal record?" I asked. "No," Daniel said. "She's careful." Careful people scare me more than reckless ones. The pregnancies came next. 2 confirmed, 1 rumored. None resulted in children. 1 miscarriage, 1 termination, 1 private medical situation that lined up suspiciously with a divorce settlement payout. She tends to disappear once the financial arrangement is finalized, Daniel said. My throat went dry. What kind of arrangement? Non-disclosure agreements, quiet settlements, assets moved into trusts, men protecting reputations. I thought of Marcus, his career, his bonuses, the house, and the trust. Then Daniel dropped the sentence that changed everything. She's already contacted a family law attorney. My attorney. Not hers. Mine. Using a consultation alias. Trying to understand my strategy. "How do you know?" I asked. "Because she used the same burner email she used in Texas," he said. She asked very specific questions about property division and marital homes. The house next door suddenly made horrifying sense. If I sold our house during the divorce, she'd live beside Marcus. If I stayed, she'd be close enough to apply pressure. Either way, she'd win proximity. "And the pregnancy?" I asked. Daniel paused. "I can't confirm it." My hands clenched. No medical records, no hospital visits, no pharmacy charges consistent with prenatal care, nothing. A lie. Or at least, a performance. That night, Amber hosted a small gathering. Music, laughter, the sound drifting through open windows. She wanted to be seen, normal, established. I watched from my bedroom window as Marcus arrived. Not to confront her, to comfort her. That was the moment I stopped feeling angry. Anger implies surprise. This was something else. I called my lawyer immediately. "I'm not selling the house," I said. Silence. "That's unusual," she replied, "but not impossible." "I want to stay," I said,
and I want to restructure everything. Claire, she said slowly, what are you planning? I looked at the house next door. The lights, the woman who thought she had positioned herself perfectly. I'm going to let her think she's winning. I didn't confront her right away. That's the mistake people expect you to make, storming over, demanding answers, exposing lies too early. But exposure only works when the other person doesn't see it coming. Amber saw everything coming. Or at least, she thought she did. I let her believe the pregnancy lie was working. I let Marcus continue spiraling, confused, guilty, desperate to do the right thing. Men like him don't need to be pushed. They collapse on their own. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Amber grew bolder. She started walking past my house more often, sitting on her porch when I was outside, making sure I noticed her hand resting on her stomach. One afternoon, she stopped me as I was getting my mail. "I wanted to thank you," she said, voice sugary, "for being so reasonable." I looked at her calmly. "For now," I replied. She smiled, but something flickered behind her eyes. That was the first crack. The second came when Marcus finally confronted her without telling me I was listening. "You're pregnant, right?" he asked her in the kitchen next door. "Because my lawyer says we're going to need medical documentation." Her voice hardened. "Why are you listening to lawyers now?" "Because I'm divorcing my wife, and if I'm going to blow up my life, I need to know the truth." Silence. Then she laughed, a short, sharp sound. "You really thought I'd trap you with a baby? Marcus, don't flatter yourself." I felt my chest tighten, but not with pain, with confirmation. She wasn't pregnant. She never had been. Marcus stumbled back like he'd been slapped. "Then why?" he asked. "Because fear makes people generous," she said flatly, "and because men like you don't move unless they're pushed." That night, I made my move. Not with yelling, not with threats, with documents. The next morning, Amber received a certified letter. Inside, proof of her false identity, evidence of the fake pregnancy claim, records of prior settlements, a formal notice that any further contact would trigger civil action and criminal fraud investigation. She showed up at my door within the hour. No smile, no performance. "You think you've won," she said. "I don't think. I know." She stared at me, rage simmering beneath the surface. "You married a liar," she snapped. "Yes," I said calmly, "but you underestimated something." "What?" "My patience." 3 days later, the house next door went dark. A week later, it was listed for sale. Cash buyer. Gone. Marcus signed the divorce papers without contest. He gave up the house, the accounts, everything. Guilt makes people cooperative. I stayed. I repainted, replanted the garden, reclaimed every inch of space she thought she'd invaded permanently. And here's the part people don't expect. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. Clear that betrayal doesn't always come crashing in. Sometimes it moves in quietly next door and waits for you to break. But I didn't. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's this. The most dangerous people aren't loud. They're strategic. And the strongest response isn't chaos. It's control. If you were in my position, what would you have done? Would you have confronted her immediately, stayed silent like I did, or walked away the moment you found out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If this story made you think, helped you see manipulation differently, or reminded you to trust your instincts, tap the like button. It helps more than you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories where the truth comes out slowly but hits hard in the end. Because sometimes the most important lesson isn't how to survive betrayal, it's how to outgrow it.